Hello everyone and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my process of how I completed this painting commission that you can see behind me here. Now this was a fairly nice and simple composition just featuring a small boat sailing through the ocean. The only problem was that the reference image that I was supplied with was fairly old, it was in black and white, and it had also faded slightly on the edges, so it wasn't an ideal reference to work from. Now the client actually wanted me to paint this in color, which leaves the small problem of me having to imagine what the colors may have been like, which is not an easy task to do at all. Luckily, I didn't actually end up having to use my imagination, as we did find some more recent photos after the boat had been refurbished. This was really good because it means that I could use those images and then transpose those colors to fit with the general shape and composition of the black and white photo. Ideally, it would be great if you were always supplied with really good high resolution images that you can work from, but in my experience, most cases that isn't going to be the case, and so it's our job as artists to try and find a way to work around the sorts of problems that bad reference images kind of present. In this case, it involved a lot of flicking back and forth between those different images, trying to make the general colors fit with the lighting dynamic of the original image. So to begin with, I'm going to start with the blocking in stage, and this part just involves establishing the basic shapes and colors of the composition. We want to be setting down a foundation to be able to work over and then refine in the later stages. A couple of things I need to keep in mind is to keep my brushwork quite smooth and thin. I don't want to be building any rough textures that will be difficult to layer over, and I also intend to work on this again tomorrow, so I need this to be touch dry by then. Keeping the paint quite thin will help with that, and I'm also going to be using a fast drying medium called Liquid Original, which also helps to increase the flow of the paint. Before I begin, I also wanted to talk briefly about composition. So normally I don't like making large changes to the scenes I'm painting, but I thought for this one it may benefit from a little alteration. My reference photo seems to indicate a clear blue sky, but I think it would make it a little more interesting and dramatic to include some clouds and make it more overcast. This may also help to provide more indication to the direction of light in the scene. So to put this in, I'm going to be using this other reference that I have, and I just have to make sure to flip the lighting on it so it matches the light on the boat. So with that said, let's just get started with the blocking. Okay, so welcome back to day 2. So the paint is fully dry. I actually think that the block-in looks pretty good. I think a big issue with this one was getting the colors right. And I think the colors, although they will need some work, they are pretty much on the right track. So really happy with that. For the block-in, I used a very bold and gestural sort of approach, which has resulted in a heck of a lot of textures within the clouds and the water and such. It's very rough. So today I'm going to need to kind of refine all that, but I'm really liking all the different colors that we've got in here, all the subtle varieties in the clouds. I think that all really helps with the realism of it. So my goal for this session, I always like to set a goal before I begin any painting session. And my goal for this one is to work on the clouds a bit more, get a lot more refinement in there, tweak the colors ever so slightly, and then also do the same with the water. I feel like I should be able to get that done in a day, and then all being well, I may even have time to work on the boat. We'll have to see how it goes. Okay, so welcome back. This is the progress thus far. I've pretty much covered over the entire sky area, and I'm pretty happy with how the clouds are structured. I think there's definite shape to it, but it's not anywhere near finished at the moment. The whole area's gotten pretty wet, so I can't really work on it anymore, but I definitely want to start increasing the levels of light within the clouds to really start rounding out the forms. And maybe in the next layer, when it's dry, I'll actually introduce some like warmer colors like yellows and oranges, maybe a few pinks as well to contrast with the cooler shadows. We'll have to see about that. But on the whole, yeah, I think it's looking very good. I have just started to work on the water, and I've already raised the water level up just like a centimeter or so. And I did that because I felt that the boat was just sitting too high up, and the higher water level just makes it sit into the scene a little better. So yeah, I'm going to continue working on the water. I'm going to try and get down some of the textures, especially the tonal contrast between kind of the ripples in the water and things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to get that in this layer. It's a little bit difficult to judge the colors because obviously we don't have like a direct colored reference to work from. So all the individual shapes of like the water movement as the boat comes through, I've pretty much got to make that up as I go. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I will do my best. And yeah, I'm going to continue working on it, and I'll check back again soon. So this is now the third day of working on this. My thought so far is that I really like the overall composition, and I've cleaned up quite a bit in the previous day. I managed to work on the boat, and I'm really liking the crisp shapes and lines. So I think that's all looking very good. In this layer, I wanted to definitely try and get a lot more light within the clouds. So a lot of the whites that we've put down have kind of sunken into some of the blue colors, and they're just not reading very light or very rounded. So I definitely want to kind of layer over the top of that with some brighter and warmer colors as well. I don't want to go too far with the warmer colors. So I'm just going to try and hint maybe very subtly at some warmer yellows or pinks or things like that in the brighter sides of the clouds. So that's what I'm going to do first. I also want to start putting in a lot more detail with the boats. We'll see when I get to it, but I want to start putting in the individual details like the railings, some of the masts coming up as well. And I also want to alter the colors. So I think the shadow is very dark because it's supposed to be the shadow for the kind of the white paint of the main part of the boat. And I think that this heavy blue is just, yeah, it's just too heavy. So I definitely want to lighten that. So those are the two areas that I want to work on in this session. And we'll see if I have time to work on the water. It does need a lot more refinement, the water. But to begin with, I'm going to start with the clouds and then move on to the boat. So the sky's coming on really well, and I'm really liking the clouds and the lighting dynamic that we have going on there. I have also gone over the blue sky area again, just to have something to kind of blend the clouds into a little bit. It was looking a little bit stuck on, but I'm not quite finished with it at the moment. What I'm going to do is to use this mop brush, and these mop brushes are really good for doing things like clouds. Basically what I'm going to be doing is just smoothing out all the brush strokes. I think some of them are a little bit too heavy, and this mop brush is perfect for doing just that. So all I'm going to do is just very lightly, pretty much just make small circles on some of the edges, and it's just going to pull the ends out of the paint and get some really nice soft blends going. We don't want to be too heavy-handed with this, so I'm pretty much just barely grazing the surface, and it's just slightly diffusing those edges. So I'm going to move on to the water now, and one of the things that I'm going to focus on in particular is the water as it comes in and meets the boat. As the boat comes through, it's kind of creating these small little waves that come up. They're pretty transparent, so you can see through the wave into the boat a little bit, which is why we've kind of extended the boat down a bit, even though the water does overlap. So I'm going to pay close attention to this. My overall feeling is that I think we can just generally increase the contrast quite a bit. It's quite a choppy and rough ocean, so we can see a lot of shadows in the distance here. Then obviously as you come towards the foreground, I want to increase the level of perspective, and I'm going to try and make everything quite a bit larger in the immediate foreground. Maybe the water spray or the foam just kind of spreads out a bit, and the ripples and the rapids become just a lot larger than they are in the background. So those are my thoughts at the moment. Just basically, I want to make sure that this ocean is looking quite rough and choppy. That's the overall goal for this. Well, I'm going to wrap this painting up here and call it done. It's come a long way and I'm pretty happy with the end result. I think it looks pretty clean and vibrant, while we've also got a bit more of a painterly effect going on in the water, which I think helps make it look a little bit more rough and choppy, adding to the overall effect. So yeah, overall, pretty happy with it. This was a bit of a different style of video to what I normally do, so if you liked it then please let me know by clicking on that like button, and also consider subscribing if you would like to see more painting videos just like this. You can also stay up to date with the new projects that I'm working on by signing up to my newsletter at ashleydavisart.co.uk, and I'll provide a link to that in the description. So thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in another painting video.